Yep, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing all right. I mean,
Yeah,
as good as I can for what is going on here, which is like probably similar to what y'all went through. I know it wasn't exactly in the big cities
yeah,
a couple years ago, 2020, but like, it's crazy. Like
yeah,
so many people I know have lost their homes.
yeah. I really appreciate you talking to me. I think it's 1 a.m. right over there, and
12:30.
12:30. Okay, that's a little bit better. But either way,
Well,
like that's
I'm a late night person, so I figured we might as well just do this when we're both up.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I've tried to do interviews when at the time that you're doing interviews, and I've like fallen asleep.
You're
So
like,
props to you. Thank you for coming. And honestly, yeah, thank you for doing this in the middle of the fires. Like, I wanted to ask, yeah, obviously how you're doing and if you're okay. Firstly,
yeah, I would say like so. The main fires are in the Pacific Palisades, which are creeping towards the valley. Which is if you, it's like basically I'm in the middle, and the fires are all around.
yeah,
The other big one is the Eaton Fire, which is in Altadena, which is like you know there was one in Hollywood too that was close in like lower in like Sunset Canyon kind of thing.
yeah,
That was the one that was scary because it was about 5 miles from here.
really, dude, that's so close.
Very close. And so I was waiting to get a evacuation notice, but it didn't come. The power went out a little bit. Trees were downed because basically what's happening is the winds are so strong, they're blowing these fires all over LA.
Yeah,
Just like a perfect storm of like chaos. But this is helpful to me because there's not a lot going on because people are canceling their events because they want to keep the roads open for like the fire
right.
department, and they want to. Nobody really feels like celebrating right now. The people that either have not been affected too
Mm.
much. The air is pretty brutal. Today it was a little better.
Yeah,
Um, but for me, it's like a healthy distraction. I'm sober, so I was at one of those meetings
yeah,
before, and then my friend wanted to stop to eat, and I was like, "Oh, this will be perfect timing." So here
true.
we are.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I don't have any fire related questions.
That's okay. That's okay. Whatever you want to talk about. I'm curious what this. So you have this. It's a podcast, right?
Yeah, so it's a partly animated arts and sociology podcast.
So I
And
will be animated.
well, segments, yeah. So we'll get like one
Yeah.
or two good reels with you
Yes.
animated. Um and
I'm a
yeah,
pretty animatable person, I think.
yeah,
Like,
me too. That's why I started it.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess I wanted to start by asking you. Actually, I've been looking at a lot of your playlists as research, and I found so many cool songs I've never heard before.
Right.
Specifically, I think it's the Gary New. Is it Gary Newman? The Two
Yeah.
Boy Army like song. I
Mhm.
was like blown away because I knew about him, but I'd never heard of his side project.
Well,
Um,
Midway Army was his band. That was his band, and then he became like sort of Gary Newman and Two Boy Army. Then it was just Gary Newman.
yeah,
Two Boy Army played some of those songs, like I think the one you're talking about might be Our Friends Electric,
that's the one. Yeah.
and basically the story with Gary is that he was in a punk band, like, and he went into the studio to record, and they had a mini Moog there, like a synthesizer,
Sure, yeah,
one of
yeah.
the first sort of like consumer available synths. And that wasn't like a lab where you're plugging little cables in. It had a keyboard,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it was like maybe it was it was the memory Moog or something, and it had sounds on it. And he hit the first sound was the sound I think for Cars. You know what I
Really?
mean? Yeah, or no, maybe Cars was later. It was like Our Friends Electric and all that kind of stuff. So he just was like blown away by the synthesizer and
Yeah.
decided yeah, let's try this. Let's do something with this. And that's where that before him in the late 70s, besides the soundtrack for Clockwork Orange, which was Wendy Carlos,
Yeah,
that inspired a lot of British bands. That and the band Kraftwerk
of course.
inspired a lot of British bands. Like before, punk rebelled against bands like Yes and ELP and all this stuff where it was very prog and you'd have to really know what you're doing.
Yeah,
And it was like 3 chords. With synths and stuff like that, you didn't have to know any chords. You just could make these kind of dystopian soundtracks
for sure.
without really being a musician,
Well, you're quite big into synths, right? You would consider yourself a synth lord. I've read that.
I've been called that.
Yeah.
In fact, here's my little synth
Oh,
lord.
wow! What is going on there?
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
like it's so much stuff, and basically, I started as a kid. Like because those bands like Gary Newman and Soft Cell and Blondie and
Yeah,
Depeche Mode and all this kind of stuff was sort of on the radio. And on MTV, I was kind of like in New Order, Joy Division, that kind of stuff. And synthesizers were a big part of their sound. So after punk was like the movement of post-punk, and it was a combination of a mix of that synthesizer stuff that was inspired by Clockwork Orange and sci-fi and Kraftwerk, mixed with the Jamaican kind of dub stuff that was kind of coming in from the West Indies, so you get like Public Image starting after the Sex Pistols and a heavy like dub influence, the Slits, the Ruts DC, Killing Joke, all these bands that kind of had this like all of a sudden this sort of slight reggae thing going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And then on the other hand were these people who were from places like Manchester and Birmingham, and they were really cold and dark places, and so the dystopian sort of vibe of the synth and stuff like that, it really
the atmosphere of a place really feeds into the kind of music, right? Doesn't it? I know the Misfits, there's the famous thing where the hybrid moments, like that was all recorded at night, right? In like a little bunker. And so apparently you can really hear that nighttime atmosphere, which I don't really know what that even means, sonically, but you can. Like you can tell it's got a vibe to it.
And for me, like as a kid, like seeing the movie Blade Runner, the soundtrack was like another character to the film, and it really added a depth of field and sort of this sonic textural landscape to propel the film. And I think for me, so going back to your question, like my parents were into soul, like Ike and Tina Turner, James Brown, Stax, like Booker T and Motown and, all that stuff. And like the mod stuff of the 60s, like the Kinks, the Who, the Small Faces, the Rolling Stones. So I grew up with that. And my dad was into like Morricone and, whatever. And so I was like that as a kid. And then when I started to discover punk first, like Black Flag, and then Public Image and stuff like that. And then the natural progression for that, because I grew up in a time where a lot of these bands were putting out some of their best records, would be like Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, Echo and the Bunnymen, Psychedelic Furs, The Birthday Party, Aussie, Nick Cave.
For sure.
And Cramps, stuff like that, Gun Club. But I think the synth thing kind of came in when I was sort of like a teenager, because it was like, I had a bar mitzvah,
I'm Jewish as well. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And So we get some money or whatever, bonds or whatever the families give us. And I
Yeah.
had a little bank account and a bank card. And I went to the music store one day and of course my mom didn't know, but I went and like bought a synth and like a drum machine. And she was like, "What are you doing? This is your
Yeah.
future." And, it was just, that sort of got me started. And I had started playing guitar before that. So synths are some synths and keys, like, and then a certain while later, there weren't a lot of people who played like, unless you were like some older studio musician, there weren't a lot of people who were playing like, like soul Hammond organ kind of stuff, or like Rolling Stonesy type piano or gospel, and so I started to learn that, and I started to get hired. I joined that band Cat Power
Yeah.
in 2006, and I was really playing like organ and piano. You know what I mean? So I kind of started with synths, then delved into like gospel and soul and rock and roll, and then came back to the synth. So now I get hired a lot to play, like most recently with the band Go Go Bordello. Do you know
Yeah.
them?
Yeah. Yeah.
On their record, and I played a bunch of synths, and then sometimes I'll be playing, I'll get hired to do, like, I got hired to play on with Kat Von D during the lockdown.
Yeah.
And that was like helping her make like these kind of new wave records. And, I did a record with the singer of the band Suicide, one of my favorite bands. And
Yeah. My favorite band as well.
yeah, I mean, they're just so fun. They sound like they're from the future now,
Yeah.
And I think like there's something about that really like gripped me. I mean, he also a couple of Jews from New York,
Yeah.
I had a podcast like you do, and I started it because I wanted to like chat with musicians from the point of view of like one musician talking to another rather than like,
Yeah. Same
and
as me.
so, yeah, exactly. So there you go. And I wanted to start it so I could talk to Alan Vega, of
Yeah.
Suicide. And I did, and we hit it off so well that I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. And I interviewed people like Psychic TV and the Stooges and the Cure and, the Zombies and the Small Faces and the Sonics and Fugazi, on and on and on. All these
Wow,
people.
like you got a good roster there. You got like at least like 5 of my top 10 bands of all time. Psychic TV, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yep.
that's incredible.
Genesis
Fugazi.
the Orange. We had a lovely chat before Genesis died, and I did a tribute to Suicide in New York with Martin Rev of Suicide and Rick
Yeah.
Ocasek of the Cars, and Genesis was the DJ.
Really?
So yeah, it was
That's
really
so
cool.
sick. Yeah.
And so that's sort of where all that fits in. It's like I am known for playing synths and organ and piano, but I also, play guitar and my old band Delta 72 was like a punk soul blues band.
Yeah, I've been listening to you guys. It's actually really cool. Really
Thanks.
cool music.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. That's awesome. Such an eclectic mix of music.
Well, I think like, you're a musician, right? So, that like a lot of stuff that's rock and roll based comes from black music, whether it's like the, field songs or early Delta blues or like Chicago blues or
Yeah.
or from the church, like gospel soul,
Yeah.
the gospel musicians going, oh, well, on Sunday we're going to be good, but on Friday and Saturday we're going to play, the house rockin' music. And so, for me, I just am I was talking to a friend, we were talking about music the other day, and she was talking about, she's really into garage, and I love garage too, but she was like, oh, I like bluegrass and blah, blah, blah. And I would be like, oh, I got this record. It's the Louvin Brothers, Satan is Real. It's like it's just like all this crazy shit.
Oh, is that the what's it called? Psychobilly record with the giant devil on it? Is that record?
No, but I'll
No.
show it. It's really crazy. It's here it is. Ah, it's a well. It came in an LP, or you could get a bunch of 45s.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like
I've
sort of
heard that record before. Yeah.
gospel bluegrass, and like there were like a couple guys from like I think they were from Alabama, the Louvin brothers, and they were sinners during the week, but repent on Sunday. You know what I mean? And to me, like if you asked my favorite bands, it would go everywhere from like Skip James, some sort of blues stuff, like Junior Wells, the Louvin brothers, Ike and Tina Turner, the Velvet Underground,
Yeah.
the Cure, Susie and the Banshees, all around Einstein and Neubauten, Suicide. To me, if it moves you here, the genre is inconsequent. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It's like that's why I've never really just subscribed. That's why I made up this kind of like fake genre called moth, which is like one part mod, one part goth.
That's so cool. I mean, I find it's the same way. Like, I enjoy so many different styles of music. I'm defined by all of it. Nothing is particular. I also saw when you got up, I saw you had an El Topo poster behind you. Props to that, honestly. Fucking.
And then here's the Holy Mountain.
There we go. Yeah. I'm a big El Topo fan. We used to watch that movie. I think we used to watch. I can't remember what that really crazy movie is. We did like double features of art house movies, and El Topo was like the big one because everyone's seen Holy Mountain, but I never hear anyone give El Topo some love.
It's to me, it's like a spiritual Western. It's kind of dark, kind of. That was the other thing that sort of, besides music, as a kid, there was a section in our video store called Other. It wasn't like if you had gone in there, you would have been like, what are all these crazy movies? But it was like, French 60s stuff. Like back there is Godard, Breathless. There was like Wings of Desire, El Topo, Eraserhead, some blaxploitation stuff. I mean, it was just like all over the shop and just great stuff. So that stuff was also inspiring to me, like just cinema in general, escapism, you know what I mean? Like, and we can do that in a healthy way with music and art and films. And I think when you ask somebody what their favorite films, writers, artists, blah, blah, blah are, the answers they give kind of tell a story without even knowing them about where their soul and heart are,
For sure. And when you find two people who kind of like similar things and you have that kind of immediate connection, it's like, I've only met you today, but the fact that you are like so well versed in these things and I am as well, it's just like, oh, another like-minded soul, which is really a really good feeling as well.
It's a great feeling.
Like I was just watching another, I guess I'd call it a spiritual Western, For a Few Dollars More. Sergio Leone sequel. Like that's my favorite Western of all time, like
I've got one of the posters up there. You can't see it. It is a few dollars more.
Yeah, cool. That's my favorite. Yeah.
And another great spiritual Western is Jim Jarmusch's Dead Man. I don't know if you ever...
incredible. Johnny Depp. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like it's a sort of same kind of thing. It's like, how do you get from point A to point B, and like what's your moral compass, and where are you coming from? And I think that a lot of those movies, and some are just purely entertainment. I love like giallo films like Suspiria and Demons and
same. Yeah, Deep Red is one of my favorites, and what's it called? The Bird with the Crystal Plumage is my favorite giallo movie. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, that's a good one. I just saw Deep Red in the theater like a
crazy
week ago.
movie.
Yeah, crazy movie. Like, um, so yeah, I mean, I think all of this stuff speaks to the soul inside. You know, I think there's a lot of people. I think with the internet, you know, once that sort of became a thing, it was a lot easier to access this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas before, I'm like sandwiched between pre-internet and post,
Yeah.
and there's like a whole bunch of stuff where you know we had to dig for it. There was no. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying go to like an underground video store or like go to a punk record shop and
Yeah.
you get like I used to get the Peel sessions, you know, John Peel.
I love the Peel
And,
sessions. Yeah.
and on the front it would have all the band names of anybody that did a Peel session. So you'd look like, oh, what is the Cocteau Twins? And you know, you go to the record
Yeah.
store, they play you the Cocteau Twins. You go, oh, I like that. Buy that record. Next week you'd come back and they'd go, well, if you like that, you might like the Birthday Party. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, the Birthday Party. And I'd take that home and be like, whoa, that's crazy. The Birthday Party. You
Yeah.
know, like,
John Peel was such a good like curator of music, and his sessions of Swamp Thing by the Chameleons, like when they played that song, which is one of my favorite songs, which no
oh my
one
God,
talks about that fucking band.
I
Um,
know.
incredible,
I
incredible
just
song.
DJ'd one of their shows in Texas,
Oh, really?
like in November. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for the Levitation Festival. The Chameleons played and I DJ'd the show and I was just like, whoa, you know, I love the Chameleons and they were so good. And it was a small club, you know.
So, with all these influences, like movies, like soundtracks, music, when you were playing in, like, I guess bands, like when you joined Cat Power, and I'm a big fan
Mhm.
of Cat Power too. I think that that song, The Greatest, is
Yeah,
fucking incredible, like incredible
incredible.
piece of music. Excellent muso. Did you find that you were able to easily connect, whether like in that band or other bands, with other like-minded people as well that were similar in taste?
Yeah, I mean, like in that band, particularly in that lineup, with because we joined the band right after The Greatest was finished, and she had been touring with a bunch of soul musicians, and then just wanted to play with friends,
Mm,
and so she got Judah Bauer from the Blues Explosion played guitar.
wow.
I played keys. Jim White, Aussie from the Dirty Three,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
played
yeah.
drums, and we all kind of have this, you know, a pretty similar language, whether it's blues or soul or, um, you know, Cat Power at that point was sort of like a dark blues band, you know. Um, and so we really explored that. And, you know, we all kind of had this. I mean, I learned so much from all of them, you know,
Mm,
like I learned from Jim White. You know, when I came in, I was like, kind of like, you know, coming from this punk thing where I have to fill up everything with notes, and
yeah.
he's like really about space. And so it taught me a lot about what to play and what not to play and the space between. And then, you know, Judah taught me a lot about the blues and you know, how to play tastefully, you know what I mean, without trying to showboat or something.
For sure. And it always is something that comes up again and again with different fields, like ego and being able to put that aside in the pursuit of great art.
Yeah,
Especially with
right.
music, because music is a collaborative form generally. And so when you
Yeah,
learn how to just be like, you know, a piece or like a cog within that kind of machine, even if it's your project, that's when the
right.
most, you know, gorgeous music seems to come, at least in my experience. It's much more relaxing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Um, and that one was a lot about because the focus was on the vocals,
Mm,
really, you know, it was about just doing service to the song, to the and to the artist, rather than just like, oh, here's my part, and I'm going to show you what I can do. And I think in the beginning, when I first started playing with Cat Power, there was a lot of that, like, what? Oh, here's my part, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
then by the end, it was like, okay, here's the song, you know what I mean? I learned a lot about how to collaborate and be together with other musicians to serve the song rather than to serve the self, you know?
For sure, which is one of the biggest lessons I think anyone can ever learn, and probably the
Yeah.
most important lesson in music. Beyond theory, beyond, composition, anything. It's just like, just remember what you're doing it for, you know?
Yeah.
Is a huge deal. So your trajectory in terms of like where you were raised and where you ended up, are you from Philadelphia originally?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And when did you first come to LA?
Um, well, I had toured, with my old band Delta 72, and we played out here in that era. And then living here, when I joined Cat Power, we would play here often, and I had met a bunch of people, whether they were people I knew from other cities that moved here or new people. And in the end, we were recording a record in Malibu, which is kind of on fire right now, like parts of it. And I just kind of was like, I rented a room from somebody and was like, and then I went back to Philly and I was like, well, I rented the room. I might as well go check it out,
Yeah.
And then I just stayed. And because it's sort of one of the last of at least in America, one of the last rock and roll cities, because so much of, as like being in Australia, there's such a rich history of like really good music, whether it's the Saints or Radio Birdman or the Birthday Party or the Scientists and even stuff like In Excess or like so many bands that were are the Loved Ones, and who's the band that did man, it was Angus Young, it was the Young Brothers brother. He had that band that what was that song, Good Time Tonight, and why am I spacing on them? They're like a really, really amazing Australian Easy Beats.
Easy Beats, yeah.
And I feel like Australia, especially Melbourne. Where are you, Sydney?
Melbourne.
Oh, Melbourne. Yeah, especially Melbourne is like sort of like the rock and roll city of Australia. You know what I mean? It's like it's so many, like whenever we would play there, there's just a vibe there. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things like, yeah, this is the place. You know what I mean?
It is quite cool. Like it's a difficult place to be a creative. I always tell people it's a very hard place to succeed and make a living or even like a quasi living from your art.
Yeah, right.
But in terms of, even if I think about, because I'm Argentinian, but I've been here for 25 years now.
Oh, cool.
And obviously I came here when I was 4. I didn't start playing music till I was 21. And I would say that I'm pretty happy with the goods and the bads, like I've definitely received a really interesting trajectory and journey through the rock scene, through the music scene here, that sometimes you take for granted and you forget as well, like you said, the rich history. Like we are, this is the place that Radio Birdman came from. This is the place where all those bands came from. It's like, well, I mean, I wish I was around when Nick Cave was playing the ESPY, We didn't play that venue, and it's just like, okay, but...
right. Or like the Toad or the Corner Hotel or the Toad. Or
classic, like the Toad's a classic like institution. I love being there. I love seeing the decor and just chatting to my mates behind the bar. And just like, it's, that place feels like... And I don't know, I will never know what it felt like to go to New York during the indie sleaze heyday and all that.
Right.
But the I read that book, the big book.
Not in the bathroom.
Yeah, so I read both that and Please Kill Me.
Please Kill Me that's incredible. Even better.
It's the Bible, right? But
yeah,
those 2 books made me reflect on my position here as a creative and kind of wish that I had more of that feeling that I talk about, like being at the Toad and just bumping into like-minded people, because gentrification here is like it's quick. It's quick here. I'm 28, and even now I'm having nostalgia for when I was 24.
Yeah, right.
And how different, for example, Fitzroy, and Richmond as well. Richmond is Richmond is kind of like Skid Row now, in terms
Oh,
of like,
really?
yeah, it's quite rough now, certain parts of it. Whereas like 5 years ago, it was definitely a bit of a different scene. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's so cool that your Aussie music. They also say that like the reason that people like Nick Cave and a lot of like gothic musicians came out of Australia is because of, again, that desolate wasteland. We're so far
Yeah.
removed from everyone else that it just creates this strange gothic texture that even if you're not a goth, your music just has this loneliness, and I definitely resonate with that as well.
It's a bit of that Wild West thing.
It
It's like,
is. It
I know
is.
that like for the Birthday Party and the Scientists and a lot of those bands, they were really into stuff like the Cramps and the Stooges,
Yeah.
and the Gun Club. And I think that growing up there, I mean, it's you're never going to sound like anybody else, even if you're trying. You're going to sound like, a little bit of where you're from,
Yeah.
what's going on within you. That like in Manchester, I feel like there's a specific sound with like Joy Division and the Fall and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Got this kind of spare post-apocalyptic kind of sound, and with Australia, there's this kind of like hint of Western. I don't know.
Mm.
It's like this, like you said, swampland gothic,
Yeah.
you know, but still rock and roll. You know what I mean?
I think the artist that has best encapsulated that feeling is Roland S. Howard, rest in peace. That
Hmm.
record, I think isn't it called Snuff Film Music or something like that?
Oh, it's Teenage Snuff Film.
Teenage Snuff Film. I mean, I'm not saying every alternative person feels like that when they're in Melbourne, but there's definitely been times where I've listened to that record and I'm like, okay, that's a great depiction of, at least of that time, what
Yeah,
it would have felt like to be here, to be a muso. It's definitely changed a lot. We've definitely given way more to surf rock now as
yeah,
like the bass normal thing is like a very youthful sound going now at the moment. I think
yeah,
people
like
are discouraged from exploring stranger, darker sounds here through the
yeah,
radios and all that. But we still like to do a bit of both, really. But it is as an immigrant here and not
yeah.
ever really feeling like I've been home here. It's an interesting feeling with like the record that we're doing now. We're recording it at a mountain, Mount Macedon,
Okay.
at the base of the mountain, and so I've really allowed myself to like take in the atmosphere of that place, the desolate nature of it, and become, the most Australian version of myself when I was fighting, years
Yeah,
fighting from embracing this like other side of me and going, nah, fuck it. I'm gonna give into it and see what happens. So it's great.
and you've got a couple strikes like I did when I grew up. I was like, this punky, gothy Jew in an area that was wealthy and had not many people like me. And
No,
so
that's the
you
case.
being like from Argentina and being a Jew, and like you kind of start off with having some stuff stacked against you, like, or at least in
Yeah.
our minds we do,
No, for sure. And every from like I guess like a race perspective, like a lot of Argentinians and Chileans and like people from Latin America, we definitely have this feeling, that's
Yeah,
it's kind of uneasy and it's hard to describe because we obviously I prefer living here, but it wasn't a decision that we made. It was a decision that,
yeah,
our parents made for us. So we kind of just go, okay, cool,
yeah.
let's see what that's like, right?
Well,
Um,
I always wanted to like live in Buenos Aires because the
yeah,
few times I've been there, I've just been like, it's like the Europe of South America.
yeah,
It's like everyone. I don't know whether it was because a lot of Germans defected there and after World War II or
yeah,
whatever the reasons were, but it was like everyone looked like they're wearing all black and they're it's like this very like
Yeah, man. Like
Artsy, cool vibe.
Argentina, I mean, Argentinian cinema has just been like the film budget has just been cut, so they're fucked now, basically. But Argentinian cinema, if you want to feel like the most gothic, eerie, atmospheric shit ever, watch a 70s exploitation Argentinian movie, you know? Because that
Give me
shit,
one. What's a good one?
I'll give you two. I'll give you one called Time for Revenge.
Huh? Do that.
It's about a guy who fakes losing his voice in a in like a mining explosion to try to win a lawsuit. And so the whole aim of the movie is he can't speak. And then there's another one called The Man. In Spanish, it's the man looking at the man who looks southwest or something. It's El Hombre Miranda. I'll send it to you later. But basically, it's a movie about a guy who claims he's an alien, and everyone says, "No, you're not an alien. You're a psychopath." And so it's that. And that's actually quite similar. And I've never seen it, but I've been going through a big Bowie phase. Finally trying to break into Bowie because I've struggled with him. And he has a movie that's pretty much the same plot as that as well.
The Man Who Fell to Earth?
Yeah. So I don't know which one came first, but same era, but the Argentinian one's real creepy. We make some fucking creepy movies because Argentina like is a beautiful place, but the history that they have with the dirty wars and stuff, that's a creepy time, you know? So everyone's just affected from the trauma of these events and the military takeovers and all that stuff. So yeah, crazy.
I wish I knew more about it. I dated this woman who was an Argentinian for a while, and when I lived in Miami, and you know, she would tell me little bits of stuff she knew, and every time I went there, I was just like, there's something real. I mean, I love South America in general, Brazil and Uruguay and all these places, you know, but there's something about Argentina that, like, I don't know. It felt like kind of like home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It still feels like home to me, even though I haven't been there much. There's a compartment in my brain that just opens up when I'm there.
Yeah,
which just doesn't, it's dormant when I'm in Australia, and then when I'm there, I'm like, oh shit, that's what it is. I mean, I could go into a whole thing about the difference between singing in Spanish and singing in English, and you know what those languages mean. But
do you do both?
Yeah, I do both, and I used to have another Argentinian. We hated each other when we first met each other at a bar, but then once he told me he was Argentinian, we became best friends, and he was in the band for a long time. So because he was in the band, he encouraged me to start singing in Spanish, but it would be these like little sections, like little pretty sections in really ugly songs, you know? That was the go. So I do sing in Spanish, but it's like encased within the framework of English. Because we're all from different places in the band. I mean, we've got two Australians, but one of our members is half Vietnamese as well. So it's like we've had half Japanese members, like 3 half Japanese members in the band. So like it's always been a very multicultural affair. But language is a whole new step. You know, that's Australian audiences generally they're not ready for most of the shit that we cook up. But they definitely aren't ready to be hearing Spanish songs. I'll tell you that much.
I understand.
Going into like as well. Like my favorite Bowie record is the Scary Monsters and Super Creeps, and that's the opening song. I think the reason I love it so much is because it has Japanese vocals for, you know, a fair bit of the track, and it's just so different, you know, to anything else I've ever heard from him, and it's beautiful, and people should take more risks.
I mean, that's how I feel about the Berlin period for him. Like, Low is my favorite.
Yeah,
because
Low's great.
It's so, I mean, probably partially because of Brian Eno, or maybe more than partially, but side 1 is like, you know, some pop songs. And then side 2 is this sort of like dystopian, ambient, you know, I don't even know, you know, and when I heard it as a kid, and that cover where he's like, you know, it's the same cover from The Man Who Fell to Earth. And he's got like this sort of slick back red hair with the white stripe. Yeah. It looks like an alien, you know, especially at the time. Everything he's done up until like Let's Dance, people must have been like, what are we watching here? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah, there's no one really like him. I don't know what the frame of reference would have been for Bowie at the time, because we can talk about him now, and everyone
yeah,
loves him now, and people did love him back then, but it's like, yeah, like there's that element of like, holy shit, like what is this guy doing, you know? Especially like some of the interviews when he was like, on heroin basically, and just doing these like interviews through a monitor or some shit like that. He really
yeah,
did
yeah,
seem like an alien, like an otherworldly creature, you know?
100%. Yeah, agreed.
I wanted to sort of backtrack a bit and sort of ask you, do you remember the first time you heard Suicide, and also what your favorite Suicide track is?
Well, that's like picking your favorite children. But I mean, I don't have any kids, but I imagine. But I would say the first time I heard Suicide, there's a guy here in LA now. He was from Washington, D.C., called Ian Svenonius, and he had a band
Oh,
called
of course, from the Chain and the Gang, yeah?
And the Makeup and all the and
Yeah, yeah,
Nation.
yeah. And Nations of Ulysses, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And he basically was one of these people that brought a sense of style back to punk music. Like before that, people were wearing like, gas station jackets. And I mean, they had a very more reserved style. And he brought this sort of gothy mod kind of element back. And, he came over one time. It was probably in the early 90s, and he brought over the first Suicide record. And I was like, I mean, I didn't know what to think of it because,
Mm,
it's like almost like, you know, aural AURAL terrorism,
yeah.
but there's also some beautiful moments like Cherie, and I mean, I think, you know, and knowing Alan Vega later and him saying like at the time, nobody, even the downtown art people, wanted to know anything about them, because
Yeah.
they were still like, whoa. But to me, I guess I have two kind of modes with Suicide, which is like the sort of intensity of things like Frankie Teardrop and like Reign of Ruin and Ghost Rider, I mean, like juxtaposed with stuff like Cherie, Dream Baby Dream,
Mm,
Surrender. So I'd say like, Ghost Rider, obviously it's like their hit, but like it holds up. It never gets old for me. And
yeah.
Surrender is like something that is like this beautiful, like you could sit it next to, and same with Cherie, you could sit them next to, like I have a space in my mind that I call classics,
Mm,
which are like songs like Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny,
classic, yeah.
Crimson Clover by Tommy James and the Shondells, um, Lonesome Town by Ricky Nelson, um, Je T'aime by Serge Gainsbourg and Jane Birkin.
Yeah.
And then in that, and 96 Tears by Question Mark and the Mysterians,
Yeah.
and also is Cherie and Surrender. They fit in what I think in my head are classics. The Walker Brothers, Scott Walker, stuff like that. They're just like these beautiful, timeless songs. Maybe like also, the Rolling Stones, you know, uh, Time Is on My Side or something like that, where
Yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
you're just like, or the Velvet Underground, Pale Blue Eyes is 100%, and Oh Sweet Nothing. They're all in this thing that I think I consider classic rock and roll.
Mm.
And they all work in my head, they take up the same bandwidth. You know what I mean?
I know what you
And
mean, yeah.
you might not think that, but when you put them one by one next to each other, um, I'm just like, yeah. So I'd say the first time I heard Suicide was in the early 90s, the first record. And then I'll never forget, I had it on a cassette and I was walking down the street with headphones on, and Frankie Teardrop was playing.
Mm.
You know, it starts as this kind of like droning, you know,
Yeah.
and then by the end, it's like a full on, you know, the Vietnam soldier coming back from war. He can't feed his family. He's, you know, he doesn't have a job. He's mentally ill. He's fucked up, and he ultimately kills his family and himself. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just like a horror. You know, it's like a horror movie being played out in a like a true crime thing, and to me, like it's funny because you know everyone's got their thing, you know, their favorites. Like Alan Vega, he was always like really into Lou Reed and the Stooges and the Silver Apples and
Yeah.
you know and 50s rock and roll, Gene Vincent, you know, rockabilly stuff, and you can hear that with the delay that's always on the Suicide microphone, like you know that slap back.
Yeah.
So that would be it. I mean, but I love everything they've done, you know, and his solo stuff too, like Jukebox Babe and Video Babe and you know, Wipeout Beat and all this stuff is like, again, it's like your regular person might not know Suicide, or they might hear him and not like it. It might be too dissonant or something to them, but just like the Velvet Underground and the Stooges, you know, in that era, they might not have sold a lot of records, but anybody who bought one of those records started a band, and that band did something where it inspired somebody else, and you know, on and on and on. And I think, especially with Suicide, they're just so they're so far ahead. You know, obviously they inspired so much electronic music, and what we're hearing now with like duos doing minimal synth wavy kind of stuff, and but there ain't nothing like it. You can't do that. There's nothing you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I remember listening to Ghost Rider for the first time. Like I didn't know about Suicide till last year in Japan, and 2 years ago actually. And I was listening to Ghost Rider as I was walking through the streets of like Osaka, and it was like a mind-bending experience. Basically, I'd never heard anything like it. I was surprised that I had never heard them before, because like I talked to a lot of people from a lot of different places all across the world on this show at this point. This is episode like 26 or 27 now. And I always like genuinely somehow it'll get involved in the conversation, and I'll ask them if they know Suicide. And most of the times they don't, you know, even if they're making music that's really fucking similar to them. I'm like, surely you know where that's from, right? And a lot of the times they don't, which is so strange. Maybe it's the name, maybe it's just the confrontational nature of it. And maybe it's just inaccessible to a lot of people who assume, like I assumed it was like a death metal thing, you know what I mean? Like a glam thing. Because of the name, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Well,
he said, Alan Vega told me that he likened the music of Suicide to the trash heaps of New York. Like it was like, and he also called it New York blues, which I also think makes a lot of sense. You know, it's like, but he told me the story, you know, there was this place called the Mercer Art Center, which was like a place where the New York Dolls played and Ramones or whoever. And that there was you walk in, you pay, whatever. There's the one room, and to get into the bigger room, you have to walk through the little room. And Suicide was playing, and the New York Dolls were in the main room. And he said people were running through with holding their ears, just like to get to see the Dolls, you know?
Yeah, that like real, because the whole thing as well was just like they weren't doing it to piss people off, but they were going to push their music, you know, to that limit, no matter what. And having shit thrown at you. I know there's the sledgehammer or whatever the fuck story.
Tomahawk.
Yeah, the tomahawk.
Axe. Yeah,
the axe. And all that other stuff. I'm wondering now, it's like on your time, in bands, have you ever seen anyone pull up an axe at a Cat Power show or at a Delta? Like, what's the
No.
craziest thing that's happened sort of with music in bands that you've seen?
I have seen, well, there were times where I would be playing in one of my old bands and I would have like a really old organ and I'd light it on fire. And like these
Really?
days you'd be arrested for something like that. But
Really? You were lighting your organ on fire. And so did it
yeah,
hold up afterwards or like,
no, here, I got a picture. I'll show you.
oh, wow.
Um, this was from one show and I used Bacardi 151 and that doesn't go out.
What?
And so,
Holy shit.
and so
Fucking
the organ,
hell.
I bought like for $100 and I put this metal plate on it so it wouldn't burn the organ. It would burn on top of the metal plate.
Wow.
But as far as other bands I've seen, like what I would call crazy, the Jesus Lizard, I've seen them a bunch of times, and David
Wild.
Young is
Wild band.
extremely wild. And, the band Brainiac, would do some crazy shit. I mean, some of it is like when it gets to third or fourth generation, it's like it seems like it's like we have to do something crazy instead of we are crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I know what you mean. And obviously, this isn't as crazy, but in Australia, for a long time, bands were doing something called a shoey, if you know what that is. It's when they pour alcohol into their shoe and drink it, right? Which I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing in America or not, but a lot of Australians expect that from, touring musicians. And I've always been against it, not because of how unhygienic it is to drink from a fucking shoe, but but because it's an expected thing, and I don't want to do an expected thing. In any conversation I have, because I do vocals on stage, anything that happens between me and you and the audience, I want it to be an organic, natural thing. So it can be crazy, or it can be chill, but it can't be premeditated.
It's got to be authentic.
It's got to be authentic. Yeah.
And if it's not, you can feel it. I mean, there are some. I'm trying to think if there's anything crazy, really crazy I've seen. I mean, like I've seen people light stuff on fire and do something. I saw Guar when they first came out, and
that's a whole nother experience, right? Like the whole band's founded on crazy shit happening all the time, but they get away with it because it's theater, right? But
it's theater. It's different though than like what you're talking about, which is like Alan Vega coming out with a like a 10-foot motorcycle chain and whipping it at people, like while he's singing.
You wouldn't be able to do that here. I mean, I'm trying to think. I know we've played shows where people have there's been drunk people and we've had to call it off, who have been slashing people, in the pit. So that was pretty, and that was at the Tote, actually. So,
oh my God. I mean, I know that.
Yeah, but it's usually the front man who I would get thrown into speaker cabinets. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'8",
right.
but
you are.
But I would get launched by even bigger guys into cabinets and when you tangle everyone up in a fucking microphone lead and yank the lead. So obviously that was me trying to figure out how to do it. But as the years have passed, I've kind of looked more at people Kevin Parker and stuff like that. I'd be oh, I can just chill. Yeah. I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, where they're just I mean, that's some stuff I appreciate, but I never I saw Tame Impala when they first came to America, and I was like, yeah. I mean, I was surprised the crowd was filled with mostly kind of sport fans, we call them bros, they're
we call them lads, lad culture and
I was just well, this is supposed to be this psychedelic thing. What's going on here?
He shifted pretty wildly between those albums, from guitar, and I like his more poppy ones more than his guitar ones. But that album Currents was a pretty big change in his entire fan base. When you have 16-year-old girls singing to the music, it's very different to the people that were consuming it beforehand. For 4 or 5 years. But I got into them pretty late. So
yeah.
I actually a funny kind of, well, not really funny, but a segue is I've only got two synths. One of them's like a Nord Lead 4, really big,
Yeah,
beautiful $3,000 one.
yeah.
And then here they sell a lot of these, the classic fucking
Oh,
mini
yeah.
log.
The mini log. I've got
Yeah.
one that was made for me here. Let me see if I can show you this.
Yeah, mine doesn't work anymore because someone spilled coffee into it, hot coffee into the circuitry.
Oh no.
And they can't fix it because it costs more to fix it than to get a new one.
Yeah, right.
So like I think 6 of the keys don't work. Yeah.
But it turns on and plays
But
something.
it turns on and it plays a few things. Yeah. We have a really good repair place called Music Swap Shop here where you can buy cool synths and cool parts. It's like very world renowned, at least, Victoria renowned, but they couldn't fix it. Each time they'd cut more of like the fabric in between the keys to see if they could do it. And it
Yeah.
just, yeah, I think it's like a full rehaul as well that they need to do for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're cool. I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, not
When
that.
in fact, when anybody else is like, they hit me up and go like, I'm thinking of getting a synth. What should my first synth be? And I'm like, especially if they're interested in analog,
Yeah,
I always say the mini log is got great sound. The original one, like the one you held up, the original one. That's
yeah,
the XD is kind of like
yeah,
doesn't have the same feel. There's something. When I was working with Kat Von D, let me see if I can show you this. I'm going to just unplug my speaker for a second,
yeah.
but
Go for it.
you'll be able to hear me. But she had this made for me, which is, let me turn this on. It's a mini log, but it's put into like this kind of
Whoa.
box. So it's like all the controls are now up here,
Yeah.
And here, let me turn it on.
That's fucking crazy. Like, and you've got like a little thing hanging off of it as well, like a little like coffin thing as well. Like it's all modern. Yeah, that's a little keychain. Yeah.
But on the back, it's got my name in the Blade Runner.
Whoa, fucking hell.
So, but it's it's got just
Holy
like
shit.
this great. I love the the weird like the and it's also got built into it a what's that pedal company that does the plasma. It's
Yeah.
like it's got a plasma pedal built into it, so it like has like a sort of distortion here and a reverb here.
So
And then here is like the Prophet.
yeah.
Prophet. This is Novation gave me the
God damn.
Summit, and then this is the 1978 ARP Omni 2, which was used in Joy Division kind of stuff.
Fucking A.
And then I've got so many synths. Then there's like
Yeah.
and
So
then
So Kat Von D gave you like a special synth, basically. Was that to work on that record?
basically what she did was she hit me up once and she was like, "What's your favorite synth sound?" And I just I played like a couple things on my Prophet that I made, like a sound I like. Hold on, let me plug this back in. And there's this guy in like Sweden or like somewhere up there he's called Love Holton.
Yeah.
And he takes whatever synth you want and he puts it into like a crazy box. I mean, you got to check him out on Instagram. It's so crazy. And he sometimes will make one with like a hurdy-gurdy. You can turn a wheel. Sometimes they all look vintage. Like mine, that thing looks like it's from like the 70s,
Yeah. I've never seen anything like that, actually. I didn't know that was even happening in the synth game, that there was somebody out there doing that.
Yeah, he's just basically reboxing them. And then some other musicians saw mine and they were like, "Oh shit." Like Nick Zinner from Yeah Yeahs, he was like, "I got to get one of those." And made, so
Wow.
it's like I would never buy that because it's very expensive and
Yeah.
it's like, I do use it. It's functional, but it's kind of like, you know, I mean, the one I use the most is the Prophet because
Yeah.
that's the most versatile and it's got everything that I need. Other than that, like I have a Nord too. I have so many synths that some are on the floor,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I play sitar too. There's a sitar over there. There's a bunch of guitars. I did a demo for Fender, and they sent me a bunch of shit.
Cool. Yeah, we've
Um,
got I'm friends with like a pretty big band here in Australia, and they always get sent really great stuff from Fender, and I'm just like, my bass will break a string, and I'll just look at it in despair for the next 2 years, and just be like, fuck, guess I can't play bass anymore. But
right.
but that's awesome. So, in terms of your friendship with Kat Von D, who I guess like initially is primarily a tattoo artist, right?
Right.
And then delved into music. And then that record that you played on, was that the one with the calling on it?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. That's a fucking awesome track. I already had that track on my playlist even before we like spoke.
Well,
Um,
I played on both of her records.
yeah.
On the first record, she had done it already with like Dave Grohl on drums and other
With Dave
music.
Grohl on drums.
Yeah, and
That's
so when
crazy.
when the lockdown happened, she was like, "All right, I want to do a synthwave record, and I already have all my vocals, and I have the." So basically, literally, we wiped everything. I mean, we've muted everything except for the vocals.
Yeah.
I played everything on synths, and because I can go up to a synth and have her go, "Can you make it sound like this?" And I'll go,
Yeah.
"Yeah," I can immediately do it. Whereas some people can't do that. So, and I could play it by hand, and then the second record, she started working with this producer that worked with Lady Gaga. So half of the songs are stuff that I did, that they produced in their way, and then half of the stuff was stuff that they did together, which is it's cool. It's like you know we did those two records together, and then she started doing some touring, um and so I did my part on both of those records, and then I moved on to other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because I saw that on that particular track, and I don't know what this is, but it said that Myla Nuri or like Vampiro or something was on it, and I couldn't understand if that meant that and I don't know if she's still alive. Well, she's not alive anymore, but I was like, did you actually get Vampiro on the record? Like, what the hell's
She
going on?
did. She was. I don't know if she was friends with her. She's friends with the people that run the estate, and they
Wow,
gave her permission to use like one of her poems.
that's insane.
So I mean, it was such a great lockdown gig. I lived at her house. We did music 5 days a week. It really got me back into like doing synths. And then since then, I've done like soundtracks. There's this place here called the Philosophical Research Society where they show like really obscure cult films and do sound baths and weird events and
Right.
all kinds of shit. And my friend, he puts out these like really cool esoteric books, and then they'll do like a screening of a bunch of weird movies, and I'll soundtrack one. You know,
Right.
like sometimes it sounds like Goblin, like some sort of weird like
For sure.
Argento, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
some
yeah. So what's that place called?
Philosophical Research Society.
Philosophical Research Society. I'll definitely check it out. I am planning to go over to LA in like May or June.
Oh wow, yeah, you'll have to hit me up.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome actually. I I was trying to do lots of research on you, and I saw an interview. Well, it wasn't an interview. You were on Anton Newcomb's like YouTube thing. Do you remember
Yeah.
much of that? Yeah, I always thought that was such an interesting merging of two different worlds, you know? Both of you. Are you guys
Well,
like good mates?
um, we, I mean, we've lost touch a little bit, but we're friends, of course. And
Yeah.
back in the day, like when they were like, writing all those records, like Thank God for Mental Illness, and
During the documentary, like when they were like doing the documentary on him for Dig.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had lived out here in LA for a little bit and met him and the Warlocks and all these bands that I'm still friendly with. And the Jonestown band would play in Philly often, and I'd always be there. And
Mm.
I just they were interesting, and I think he started that TV show, and during that period we had reconnected. I was in Cat Power, and he was pretty much like, yeah, man, like, be on my show. And I was
Yeah.
on it like more than a handful of times. And, for a long time, I was one of the only people he wasn't like, fuck you. He was like super nice to me.
Yeah, man.
And I gave him a tour of like the studio when Cat Power was recording. And that
Mm.
was one of the videos. And, we would talk about records, and it was kind of like what we're doing,
Yeah.
except he would be like, okay, what do you want to hear? And I'd be like, Silver Apples or
Like
whatever.
DJing in
Yeah.
between the convo. Yeah.
And then he plays a video, and
Yeah. I only just found out about like that TV show. I saw him because the thing is in Australia, in my demographic of like music people who like all sorts of stuff from psych rock to, goth rock or whatever, even to hip hop and stuff, like he's probably one of the biggest living artists for underground musicians here. Like there's so many people trying to imitate what he did.
yeah,
And I saw him live, but my friend who he's a big fan of actually a lot of the stuff that you've done, a lot of the different projects that you've worked on. So I thought at the time I was like, I reckon he's probably going to enjoy this, and I took him to see him here. I don't know if you heard about those shows, but
were you
basically
at that show where
I
it
was
was like,
fucking there, and I think he played like 4 tracks in the whole time, and I actually really liked it. I mean, the crowd was in unison, which is rare in Melbourne. And I looked at my right, and I saw that there was a lot of waters. Lots of waters had been poured, and I said to my friend, I said, "Well, no one's that thirsty. Like the venue's had enough, and they set up these waters, and those waters
okay.
are going to get thrown." And I
Oh,
left.
was that it? Were people throwing the water?
So yeah, I left. When before the curtains were drawn, because they had like a big fight, and then the curtains were drawn, and then apparently the waters were thrown as well, um, which was just like
The fight was between him and my friend Ryan.
really,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the new band, but I know
yeah,
all the classic band members of the Brian Jonestown Massacre. And,
yeah,
it's that sort of thing is just a shame
mm.
all the way around. I mean, again, no press is bad press. Like,
No,
that's going to make people be like, whoa, what?
they're doing the thing, but
Yeah.
like,
They're-
yeah,
But if you paid a bunch of money
yeah,
to go see that show and it was that, you might be like, this is so worth it. Or, well, I really had hoped they had gotten through the set,
It was the feeling you'd get from like a performance art piece that you never knew you were sort of watching. 'Cause you
Right.
went there to go like to space out and enjoy some of your favorite songs and hope that he'd play them. But when he didn't play any of them, and like I mean no music basically, it
Right.
starts to make you wonder. You're like, is this bigger than just the music? Is this a statement? Obviously it wasn't. But
Right.
I know that the tambourine player, who I'm a huge fan of, and I can't remember his name, but
Joel.
yeah, he wasn't on the show because he'd had a fight the day before. So there was already this sort of escalation, basically, and it
Right.
culminated with that. And I think that was that last show here. And I think my mates had tickets to see them somewhere else. It might have been at like the Howler or something like that. Oh no, the Croxton, and then that show never happened. So
Yeah, exactly.
but when I saw
They
you
had,
two had chatted, I was like, what an interesting matchup of worlds. Like,
yeah, I mean, well, because he loves all the stuff we're talking about too. Like
yeah.
he loves suicide, and there's always been a confrontational aspect to their band, and I think when you're a personality, and you've got like a way you want to do things and you way that you want them done, and everybody's got their own kind of thing, and I think with him, he's just you know he's got such talent, and in a way, it's like the biggest garage rock band in the world still.
Yeah, it is actually because I can't think of anybody else. The only other garage rock band that I think could be considered as big is probably the OCs, you know? And they're
Right?
very different bands.
Yeah, the OCs seem more like punk,
Yeah,
whereas the Brian Jonestown Massacre, their influences, to the best of my knowledge of knowing them, are like things like Spaceman 3 and Suicide and
yeah,
the Chocolate Watch Band and the early Stones, and like stuff like that, and the Seeds. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all those guys too.
yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Mm.
Um, okay, so I think we've been chatting for like over an hour, but I've been obviously loving every second of it. I guess the last thing I just want to ask you is like, what's next for Mr. Pharmacist? What is next on the agenda? Is there anything you want to promote? Anything you want to talk about on the show?
Well, I think as after the lockdown, being a working musician has become tougher. As
Yep.
I know, touring for international bands, and it's been tough. I've been doing stuff with Lydia Lunch for a while,
Oh
on and
wow.
off. I played with the Gossip right before the lockdown. That was cool. We got to open for the Cure.
Cool.
Um, and as of late, I did a session with, like I said earlier, Gogo Bordello. I did a remix for Eugene Hutz's label called Casa Gogol, and for this artist called Grace Bergier, and it's really, really cool, I think. Kind of Portisheady.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I did a session right in the new year with David J. from Bauhaus.
Oh wow.
We did
Incredible.
a
Yeah.
he had a song, and he asked me to stop by, and I was like, for sure, I'm doing it. And so I've got stuff coming up, but like little things like we're doing some local musicians. They're international musicians. They have a band called, excuse me, Sacred Skin, kind of more like dark wave, 80s kind of sounding stuff. But they're doing a tribute to the music of Julie Cruz, and Angelo Badalamenti of the Twin Peaks soundtrack,
Oh
essentially.
wow.
And so I'm playing guitar in that, and as a working musician, I just do stuff as it comes up. I've got a DJ night here in LA called Nag Nag Nag, which is like a post punk kind of dance night.
Cool. Which club is that in?
It's called the Monty, which is kind of like
Monty.
the rock and roll club on the east side of LA that everyone plays and goes to and DJs.
For
And
sure.
it's been it's sort of known as being like the place to kind of like do an event. Um, and that's kind of what's going on. I mean, right now, unfortunately, there's a lot going on here in LA with these fires. And
Mm.
so a lot of entertainment stuff is on hold because
Yeah.
nobody, A, feels like celebrating, and B, a lot of venues are closed. Um, And it's like, we don't know. We don't know what the aftermath is going to look like
Yeah.
because the city's still on fire. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
a couple of places where the fire's only like less than 20% put out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a
And
similar feeling to what you just described. Just feels like COVID. Like we had one of the longest lockdowns here, and nobody wanted to celebrate, and nobody wanted to do anything. And even when everything was open, the scene here was forever changed.
yeah, and I think Los Angeles is such a strong city, so it will recover. I
Mm.
think that we're just like passing through ground zero of this tragic time,
Yeah,
and everyone's just trying to be, the amount of support and people who show up to donate stuff and do GoFundMe's and help other people is so inspiring. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I was
Because
gonna say as well, like later after the show's over, if you want to send me a few of those GoFundMe's, I'd love to like share them, through my band's account and through the podcast as well, just to get some more eyes on it in Australia.
yeah, I mean, I've posted. You can check out on my most recent posts. There's two of them where there are resources. Whether you're a musician and you need help,
Mm.
whether your house has been burned down, whether you need to like have a place to put your pets for a little while,
Mm.
like there's all kinds of things. If you're sober and you need help finding meetings
Yeah.
online because they're not in person, you know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of those resources. And, I think at this moment, like, the other day, Sam Moore of Sam and Dave, like the famous soul band, died, and
Yeah.
I posted about it because I think during times of heaviness, soul music can uplift people, but it also I felt a little iffy about posting it, even though he was a legend who passed away, and it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I think people are really just like focused on what we can do one another here at the moment. And I've gotten 100, at least 100 messages from people outside the area going like, what can we do? How
Yeah.
can we help? Are you okay? You know what I mean? Which is like, it's really inspiring that people care because at the end of it all, we kind of have to look out for each other and help each other
Yeah.
not feel like we're alone. And I think that, artists and musicians and just regular folks, that's our duty is to help one another in this life. And I think that that's if any message that comes through this interview and all this stuff is that the reason I'm here and not dead, because I went through some heavy periods of like
Mm.
drugs and all kinds of stuff. But the reason that I think I'm here is to help people, not feel alone and be able to walk through this life.
Yeah.
And we have to look out for each other because sometimes the powers that be, they don't, we're the last on the list, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's the message.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
message of hope
of
and
all
help.
the people that have said any message on this show, that was definitely one of the most profound things I've probably ever heard, and I appreciate you sharing that with me. That's heavy stuff, and I mean, like when we had COVID, the only thing that got me through it was the community, and that community isn't around as much anymore. But when we needed each other, it's like a special forces team or whatever. When the world needed it most, it came together to kick some ass. And I think that will definitely be happening. And I guess these things are really tough and horrible, but there's elements of hope, in terms of, and
Yeah,
that's what we're doing
I
it,
think,
right? Like, that's what we're doing it for. Like, I listen to, like you say, like, a Cat Power record or anything else and just feel inspired and want to create. And that, an artist doesn't necessarily have to meet you to have such a profound impact on your life. And so
yeah,
I'm grateful
and
that I had the chance to talk to you and meet you.
likewise. I mean, and that's what we're here for is to create something where there was nothing. And when once that's being done is, to share that with people and to inspire others to be authentically who they are and help others, walk through this universe. And that's it.
For sure. For sure. Well, thank you, Greg, for today.
Got it.
Please take care of yourself, and yeah, we'll chat soon.
And send me those films. That would be really great.
I'll do it right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks,
Easy.
bud.
Catch you, man. Bye-bye.